Hey everyone, thank you for joining me here today. This is a totally last minute video. I want to make that pretty clear. Um, I just spent the last couple of hours recording a podcast, recording the Retro Rewind podcast, only to realize that my idiot self forgot to turn my mic on to make sure that I was being heard. So, I can still upload that podcast if you guys want, but you would only hear Mike's end of the conversation. You wouldn't hear anything that I would say. So it's probably going to be a good thing, probably one of the highest viewed podcasts ever. I'm just joking, of course. So I just want to go ahead and make a real quick video as a Friday upload, download thing to at least give you guys something to watch if you're interested. So let's go ahead and get into today's topic. It was something that was actually brought up during the podcast, so I'm just going to go ahead and just do it here because I can't upload the podcast, which, as you can see here, is that it's from Forbes magazine, and it's talking about how Sony could acquire Square Enix for PlayStation. This is a very interesting discussion point right now, at least in my book. As the article says, obviously we're not out of the era of massive video game acquisitions and consolidations yet. And one new rumor is something that many fans have theorized about for quite some time, and that Sony may be looking to buy Japan's Square Enix for the PlayStation brand. This report comes from the PS I Love You show, where Greg Miller says he heard that Sony is trying to acquire Square Enix, though it's unclear what stage of that process may be happening and whether or not it would actually come to pass. He says to still take it with a grain of salt, which of course I absolutely would too. Now, what makes this whole thing interesting is that one, it depends upon if Square Enix even wants to be purchased. It's going to come down to their board of executives whether or not they actually want to sell Square Enix. But it's also interesting to me that it comes at a time when Microsoft can't do anything about it. They're in the middle of their acquisition with all those game studios that they bought from Activision Blizzard, and they can't really do anything about it. So yeah, it's also going to be interesting if Nintendo gets involved in this, because Furukawa has said on record that they're not really interested in buying or getting involved in the buying business of companies unless it came down to a partner company, which we know that Square Enix is a partner company of Nintendo. I mean, they've given them Octopath Traveler, they've given them Alive Alive, they've given them Project Triangle Strategy, they've given them Final Fantasy games before, and I think we're going to get Crisis Core remake on Switch. So Square Enix has given them some games before. Granted, some of them haven't been the best of caliber, like the Kingdom Hearts games and stuff. But it'd be interesting to see if Nintendo would actually step in and be like, you know what, can we at least get this studio that gives us these games and you have the rest? Or to see if Nintendo would try to buy Square Enix outright also, just so they can keep those exclusive games. I think that if this happens, it will be a game changer, only because of the fact of, imagine going forward, all Final Fantasy games are on PlayStation. I mean, this is how it was in the past. They quit making games for the Super Nintendo because the PlayStation was offering them a lot more access, a lot more hardware stuff, so they made Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation. And for a while, you could only get games on PlayStation until PS3, I think, is when they first started to take, I think Final Fantasy 11 or whatever it was that had Lightning in it, 12, and move it over to Xbox also. So that would be interesting to see if Sony buys them outright. Because just imagine that. Imagine if we live in a world where we get Square Enix games. And of course, this isn't talking about the Western stuff that they sold off. That's another interesting part of the story, because something that I read somewhere basically said that's the reason why they sold them off. That they sold off those Western games, because Sony was more interested in Square Enix and not, not the people that make, those games that don't make the Deus Ex games, that make the, the Tomb Raider and all that stuff like that. So, if that's the case, and they did that to be more appeasing to Sony, then who knows? We could see Kingdom Hearts be an exclusive. Maybe all 3 of the Kingdom Hearts games, as they currently stand now, and all the other ones that have been out on like portable systems and stuff, maybe they'll come to PlayStation Plus, free to play. And then Kingdom Hearts 4 comes to PlayStation 5 or 6 or whatever, day one, exclusive. So that would be interesting to see if this takes place. Now, of course, just like this article says, I have a link to the description down below so you can check that out. But just like the article says, and just like I say, make sure you take this with a grain of salt, because I do this with everything. Everything that I hear, everything that I talk about in these videos, I take 100% of it with a grain of salt until it's official. Until Sony comes out, signs the, signs on the dotted line, and the ink dries, and it's official. It's a grain of salt. It's a huge bag of salt, actually. So, what do you guys think about this? Do you think that Sony should buy Square Enix? And if they do, what's, outside of the Final Fantasy, because they throw a huge ton of money at Final Fantasy to make sure that it's exclusive. So this could probably help them save money also, now that I think about it. This could help them save a ton of money, because they don't have to throw a ton of money to make sure that Final Fantasy stays exclusive to their platform. They could just be like, it's exclusive because we own it. But what do you guys think about that? Do you think that'd be weird for Final Fantasy games and Square Enix games to not come to other platforms anymore? Do you think it'd be a good thing? And outside of Final Fantasy, what games would you want to see Sony bring back if they brought back older Square Enix games? I'm personally still on board for maybe another Parasite Eve. I mean, we've gotten 3 games in the series. We could use a 4th one. Just saying. It's a pretty good series. I've liked it so far. But that's just my 2 cents, guys. What do you guys think in the comments down below? Make sure to give me a thumbs up if you like this content and watch it this far. That way I know you have watched it this far. And again, I apologize for the podcast. But outside of the podcast, I try to bring you at least weekly content, if not once, if maybe 3 times a week. So you're welcome to subscribe and stick around and watch more of that. Otherwise, I hope you have a good one, guys. Have a good one. I'll see you next time.